The girl didn't remember her own name. She was standing alone at a bus stop just past midnight, barefoot, shivering, and clutching a thin sweater that clearly wasn't enough for the cold. Rain had soaked her hair into dark strands that clung to her face, and her eyes, wide, searching, frightened, looked like they were trying to recognize a world that had already forgotten her. Daniel Harris almost drove past her. Almost. He had just finished a double shift at the warehouse, his body aching, his mind foggy with exhaustion and worry. Bills stacked on the kitchen counter. His 8-year-old son, Leo, needed new shoes. Life had a way of pressing down on him from every direction. Stopping for trouble was the last thing he could afford. But something about the way she stood there, too still, too quiet, pulled at him. He hit the brakes. At first, he only rolled down the window. "Hey," he called gently. "You okay?" She didn't answer, just stared. He stepped out, careful not to startle her. "Are you lost?" A long pause. "I don't know," she whispered. Her voice was barely there. Daniel felt something twist in his chest. "What's your name?" Another pause. "I don't remember." That was the moment everything changed. Daniel didn't think of himself as a hero. He was just a tired single dad trying to get through each day without falling apart. But leaving her there, cold, alone, and clearly not right, wasn't an option. So he did the only thing he could. He brought her home. Leo was already asleep on the couch when they arrived, a cartoon still flickering on the TV. Daniel grabbed a blanket, wrapped it around the girl, and guided her inside like she might break if he moved too fast. "You can sit," he said softly. She perched on the edge of the couch, eyes darting around the small apartment as if trying to piece it together. Daniel handed her a glass of water. "We'll figure this out, okay? You're safe here." She nodded, though it didn't look like she fully understood what that meant. When Leo woke up the next morning and saw her, his first reaction wasn't fear. It was curiosity. "Who's she?" he asked, rubbing his eyes. Daniel hesitated. "She needs help." Leo studied her for a moment, then walked over and held out his favorite stuffed dinosaur. "You can borrow this," he said. "If you want." For the first time, the girl smiled. It was small, fragile, but it was there. They called her Hope. It was Leo's idea. "Because she found us," he said simply. And somehow the name stuck. Days turned into weeks. Hope didn't remember anything. No family, no past, not even where she came from. Doctors said it could be trauma. Police filed a report, but no missing person matched her description. It was like she had appeared out of nowhere. Daniel expected someone to come looking for her. No one did, and slowly she became part of their lives. She helped Leo with his homework. Even though she insisted she didn't remember school, somehow she just knew things. She cooked simple meals with Daniel, laughing quietly when she burned the toast. She started sleeping through the night. But sometimes, Daniel would catch her staring into space, her expression distant, like she was chasing something just out of reach. "Do you remember anything?" he asked once. She shook her head. "Just feelings?" "What kind of feelings?" She hesitated. "Big ones, like everything used to matter more." Daniel didn't know what that meant, but it stayed with him. 3 months later, everything began to unravel. It started with a photograph. Leo had brought home a school project, family history. He spread out pictures across the table, asking Daniel questions about grandparents and childhood memories. Hope watched quietly from across the room. Then her eyes locked onto one image. Her hand froze midair. "That," she whispered. Daniel turned. "What is it?" She walked closer, her steps slow, uncertain. "That building." It was just a random photo, an old magazine clipping Leo had used for decoration. A massive estate, gates stretching wide, fountains carved from marble. "You've seen it before?" Daniel asked. Hope pressed her fingers to her temple. I think..." And then she gasped. A memory, flashing, flickering, gone. But it was enough. Daniel saw it in her face, the fear, the recognition. Something had just cracked open. The next day, everything changed again. There was a knock at the door. Daniel wasn't expecting anyone. When he opened it, 2 men stood outside in suits, sharp, controlled, out of place in their modest neighborhood. Mr. Harris? One of them asked. Daniel nodded slowly. Yeah. We'd like to speak with you. It's about the girl. His stomach dropped. Behind him, Hope froze. They didn't come inside. Instead, they handed Daniel a folder. Inside was a photograph. Hope, but younger. Cleaner. Smiling in a way Daniel had never seen before. Below it, a name. Emily Carter. Daniel looked up. What is this? The man's voice was calm, precise. The girl you've been caring for is Emily Carter. She disappeared in 2002. Daniel blinked. That's not possible. She's 17, the man finished. Yes, we're aware. A chill ran through Daniel. That would make her... He couldn't finish. Older than she appears, the man said. Much older. Daniel shook his head. No, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to, the man replied. What matters is this. Her father has been looking for her for over 20 years. Daniel's chest tightened. Who is her father? The man held his gaze. A billionaire. The name Carter was everywhere once Daniel started looking. News archives, interviews, headlines that spanned decades. A missing child. A grieving father. A mystery that had never been solved. Emily Carter had vanished without a trace at age 9. And now she was here. Calling his small apartment home. It didn't feel real. But the evidence was undeniable. They want to take her back, Daniel said quietly that night. Hope sat across from him, her hands trembling. Do I have to go? She asked. The question hit him harder than anything else. It's your family, he said carefully. I don't remember them, she whispered. I remember here. Leo, sitting beside her, grabbed her hand. You're my sister. Hope's eyes filled with tears. Daniel felt like his chest was being torn in two, because he knew the truth. She deserved answers. She deserved her past. But she had become their future. The reunion was arranged quickly. Too quickly. A private jet. A guarded estate. A man who had spent half his life searching for his daughter. When Emily Hope stepped into the room, everything went silent. Her father stood there, frozen. Older, worn, carrying years of grief in his eyes. Emily? He said, his voice breaking. She didn't move. Didn't run into his arms. Didn't recognize him. I'm sorry, she whispered. I don't remember you. The man staggered back like he'd been struck. Daniel watched, his heart aching. This wasn't the reunion anyone had imagined. This was something else. Something broken. Days passed at the estate. Doctors, specialists, endless questions. They said her memory might return. They said it might not. Her father tried. God, he tried. He showed her photos. Told her stories. Pointed out pieces of her old life. But every time she looked at him with the same quiet confusion. And every night she asked the same question. Can I go home? On the 5th day, Daniel got a call. Please, she said. Come get me. He didn't hesitate. When he arrived, she ran to him. Not her father. Not the life she had lost. Him. She buried her face in his chest, holding on like she was afraid he might disappear. I remembered something, she said. Daniel pulled back. What? She looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. I remembered how it feels to be loved. His throat tightened. And? He asked softly. She smiled through the tears. It feels like you and Leo. Her father watched from a distance. And for the first time, he understood something he had been too blinded by grief to see. Love wasn't something you could reclaim just because it once belonged to you. It had to be lived, earned, felt. He approached them slowly. I spent 20 years trying to find you, he said to her. She nodded, tears still falling. I know. I thought bringing you back would fix everything. She shook her head gently. I'm not broken, she said. I'm just different. He swallowed hard. And where do you belong? He asked. She looked at Daniel. At Leo. At the life she had built from nothing. Then back at him. I think I belong in both places. It wasn't the ending anyone expected, but it was the one they needed. Emily didn't lose her father again, and Daniel didn't lose his daughter, because that's what she had become. Not by blood, but by choice. And in the end,